All right, this video is going to be about some near-death experiences that I know that pretty much all these that I'm going to speak on is going to be something that I could only been saved by grace and mercy and the love of God. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't be here now speaking about these. I'm almost certain that there's more. I spent a little while now trying to think of them all. I mean, kind of like, was like, wow, I didn't realize it was this many. And so it's just going to be about that. It's going to be nothing scriptural. I've not got no scripture lined up with this, although I'm sure that there's several that could be related to it. I'm just not going to speak on them. But my first story I'm going to go into, I got them written down because there's no way I'm going to remember all these. And that's just the small amount. I got others. But this one here is going to be about when I was about 15 or 16 years old. Okay. And some of these are going to be confessions, more or less. Also, there was a stolen car. It was a stolen truck. Me and two of my buddies, I ain't going to say names, was driving around with a stolen truck for a while. We decided we was over on 104 near Anderson Concrete. There's a road off of 104, which is a freeway in Columbus, Ohio. If you're not familiar with it, obviously, that you wouldn't know. But there was a little road that went between these two lakes. Just one long road, and the only thing on that road, besides till you get to the end of it, which belonged to Anderson Concrete, was a little house and a little garage on the whole road. I mean, you couldn't see nothing. That was the only thing you could see on that road. You could see as you're going by on the freeway. Anyways, I decided with my two buddies, they was passengers. This was a little S10, or I think it was. I can't remember exactly what it was. I just know it was a little pickup truck. And my one buddy was in the passenger seat. My one other buddy, he was behind the little small section between the two seats. He, or between the front and back. Anyways, I decided to drive out into this road. Was like, you know what? Let's see what this truck can do. Now, the truck said it could do 110. I wanted to see if it'd do it. Not that I would know if it hit it or not, but I was like, all right. So I got all the way at the end of the road. I went all the way down to the end where, I said Anderson Concrete's business was at, one of the corporate offices. Went all the way down there. It was closed. It was the weekend or whatever. And I turned around and we're listening to a song on the radio. I want to say it was like Fats Domino, one of his songs. And I was getting, into it. And I'm like, you know what, let's do it. So I stomped on the gas, pill out, take off flying. Buddy, we was doing like, I want to say anywhere between 80 to 100 at this point. Because I don't remember exactly. I'd be lying if I said I did, but I know it was fast, extremely fast. But I know it was at least above 80 or 80-ish and above. Because that was what it was the last I had looked. But I still was going. So, with my foot on the gas. And I seen a couple geese on the side of the road. And I'm like, I know I shouldn't have been thinking like this. And, I understand it was wrong. But I was like, I'm going to try to swerve and hit them at that speed. Well, came off the road onto the grass, and me being young, I was like 15 or 16 years old. I was young and didn't know better. went off the road, tried to hit them. They flew away before I could get to them. They'd seen it coming somehow. And I went to try to go back onto the road, and the tires caught traction. And when they caught traction, because we was sliding, because the way I swerved causes it to slide, and the tires, the front tires, caught traction, caused the truck to start spinning. Now, at that speed, you would think that thing would have flipped. But it didn't. Spun around, doing like 360s. And, of course, the only thing on the whole road was that house and that garage. And it was unoccupied. It was like they owned it. So I don't know what the purpose of that house was. Never did find out. But I hit the garage at full speed. I mean, other than that little momentum, we might have slowed down during them spinning around and whatnot. Hit that garage and went through the wall, the whole brick wall. Boom. Yeah. And I have to say, by faith, I mean, my glasses came off my face. My buddy, he had a seatbelt on, and my buddy in the back didn't. But we was all saved by that, because something could have really drastically happened. I believe by faith, God made sure that we was okay. To go through a whole brick wall, that's pretty severe. I ended up getting caught for that, by the way. So I did get in trouble for it. It wasn't like I got away with it. I tried to run and get away and came back and whatnot. Big story over that one, but nonetheless, I got caught over that. That was one of them. Next one will be, here's another stolen car situation. I remember, a buddy of mine, one of the same buddies that was in that truck that time. Most of this car stories was more of just a joyride, just to get from point A to point B, pretty much. It wasn't like I stole them and tried to take them to a chop shop or none of that, because that's not it. I didn't care about that. I didn't know anybody anyways that would deal with that, so that's not the case. But anyways, we had this, I don't know how many of you might know about the Mitsubishi 3000 Boost GT. It was a 93 Mitsubishi 3000 Boost GT. And I don't remember what year it was, but I know it was a new car, brand new. I mean, it was nice looking. And it was in around the time that it would have been a new car. And I remember I drove around this thing, man, for like a couple weeks. And it was a nice car, let me tell you. And I remember I wanted to show it off. Wanted to, take it over to my sister's house. And she was staying out at an apartment complex. And she had her own place at the time and stuff. And she had her nieces, or her kids with her. My nieces. And one of them anyways, let me say, before the other one was born. But I went out there and just randomly decided to, hey, sis, you want to go for a ride? I want to show you this car. I wanted to show it off like it was mine. And picked her up. She decided, she had been drinking at the time, so she wasn't quite coherent as much as she should have been or could have been. She got in the passenger seat. And when she got in, I took off. Okay. Now, I'd only been out to her property before. I can't remember. And I didn't really pay attention, the surrounding area and how everything was. But my stupid man came out of her parking lot, turned onto the road she lived on, and I stomp on it, flying. I want to say I was probably close to like 50 or 60 mile an hour in first gear. That's how fast I took off. And I kicked it into second. By the time I hit it in third, we come around the corner. And the street she lived on, I didn't know this at the time, was a dead end. I remember coming around that corner, and this was like 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning. And I come around the corner, and the headlight shined onto the guardrail, showing it was a dead end. My heart dropped. I'm doing about 100 mile an hour by this time. Yeah. Come around the corner, and when I seen that, I'm like, and I remember my sister, one of the last things she said at that point was, "You better slow down. We're going to get in trouble." She has no idea. She had been drinking, so she has no idea the danger we actually really are in. And I went over into the grass, and I'm like, now I just like stomp on the brake because I knew I had to do something. I hit the brake. I'm holding it. I'm like basically standing on it. Man, we're sliding through the grass. Wow, man. And I seen these bushes, like, like shrub. I wouldn't say like bushes, like shrubs, but it was a foliage and just trees and whatnot. But anyways, went through that, and about 15, 20 feet into it, there was a tree. I had no control of the car at this point. I'm still freaking out, not knowing what to do. Nothing I could do, even if I wanted to. And we hit that tree, bam, full force. I mean, it might have slowed down a little bit, but I'm telling you, you ever tried to stop at 100 mile an hour on grass, that's not slowing you down much, because it wasn't, but only probably 50 feet, something from that guardrail that was the dead end. I just happened to swerve over and miss it, and then that's when I stomped on the brakes to freaking slow down. But I remember her, she said, "You better slow down. We're going to get in trouble." Hit that tree. When we hit it, I had no idea at the time, but I had an airbag. She didn't. I remember when we hit, I mean, it was like a quick bam, and I'm like pulling my face out of the airbag. I'm like, well, wow, what the heck? Now I'm seeing the smoke everywhere. It's crazy. It's smoke everywhere. I look over at my sister, and she's like pulling her face out of the dashboard. Yeah, I mean, and she was like, she had blood running all down her face. I looked at her, and she's like, she's, you know, like, "Oh, we need to get out of here." So she's like, "I can't see," and she's trying to grab the door, and her hands just like she can't grab the door, and I'm like, "Huh, man, she's dead." Oh my gosh, because you should have seen the blood. You would have thought the same thing. I yanked her out of the car, pulled her up to the top of the hill, because it was like after the guardrail. Needless to say, I survived. She survived with just minor cuts. It just must have looked worse than what it was. But to me, I should have been dead on that one. I believe so. As fast as it was going, couldn't stop it. And bam, should have. I mean, I didn't know there was an airbag. Uh, so that's one of them. Another one. Uh, Here's another stolen car incident. I remember me and one of the same buddies that was in the other two. He was in this car with us. We had a Pontiac Grand Am, and it was red, and Not that the color makes a difference, but anyways, we was not too far from where it actually was staying at the time, but was driving up Greenlawn Avenue, and somehow or another, my buddy, he was driving, ended up cutting off another guy or whatever, and it pissed him off. So this guy is now really upset. He's driving up beside us, and he's so upset that he's driving his car like side by side, like literally you could have just barely moved and we'd have bumped. He was trying to reach in the passenger window to grab me. Like, I'm like, whoa, what the hell? But I remember there was some spinners. I don't know if you know what they are. They're the things that the type of thing I'm talking about, like in the center of like Dayton's, McLean's, the spoked rims, the centerpiece that was went to them. There was some down at my feet. I picked one up, threw it out the window at him. I guess it hit him. I'm assuming I did because I seen him, the way he blocked it or whatever. And now he's really pissed. So now he's chasing us. I didn't trust my buddy's driving. Of course, I wasn't much better. But I told him to pull over real quick. We went up to a gas station. I hurried up, switched spots. Now I'm in the driver's seat. I don't see how he must have got stopped at a light or got stuck behind some cars or whatever, but I gave us enough time where I got in the driver's seat, so now I'm in the driver's seat. Get out on High Street, going south, and flying. Now he catches up to us. He's flying right behind us, and I'm like, I see a street, and I'm like, I'm gonna take that. I take off down that street. Squill out, whatever, squill the tires. I'm going around a corner. And I remember was flying up through there. I ended up, we was doing like 60 in a 25. You're talking about if you know anything about Ennis on the south end of Columbus, that's a tight road. Okay, so it's a one-way going the direction I'm heading, but it's like side. You could fit down through there, but you ain't got much room. So if somebody opened up their door kind of thing, you would smacking it and taking it off. But I flew by a cop. Whew. I went by so fast, he didn't even realize. Evidently, he must have not realized I went by or something. But anyways, I seen the guy that was following behind us, chasing us. He stopped and talked to the cops. And I'm like, so now I see headlights or the squad lights, police lights come on, and he's coming out to come chase after us. I end up seeing, I'm like, I didn't know better. I'm like, well, I'm gonna have to, I should have known better, but I didn't. I'm gonna turn this corner. Going 60 mile an hour, you ain't doing that. I'm sorry, you're trying to, no, it's not happening, only in movies. So I turned that corner, tried to turn the corner, and the car just basically just did a little slide off to the side, and I hit these steps at 60 mile an hour. Boom! Car jumps up, man, and I'm like, oh wow, I guess my buddy, he had a seatbelt on, and my other buddy, I can't remember if he had a seatbelt on or not. I didn't. I didn't get hurt. Nothing happened to me. I actually got away with that one. I'm not going to go into the full story of it. It's too long. It's be a full video just in itself, just from that. But I survived that one. And to me, that's grace of God, because that could have turned out really bad. There's been people killed less speed than what I was at that point. Let me stop this, pause this for a second. All right. Now I know so far, there's some of you could be thinking, that ain't nothing. I've been through worse. Could have been. Some of you probably thinking, oh, you could have survived all that. I could have. Obviously, I did, so I'm here. But to me, I believe by faith that for he shall give his angels charge over thee to keep thee in all thy ways. So I like to lean on that scripture with these. Well, here's another one. Now, this just could have been an injury. I'm not sure. I mean, any number of things. But I was walking coming from mom's house when she was living on the south end there. I remember walking to head to my buddy's house who lived in South Park in the Bottoms. I was heading to his house, and as I was walking up the street, there was a bunch of traffic coming in both directions because I was going to cross over across High Street, heading towards Greenline Avenue, heading down towards South Park. I ended up, as I was walking, I was like, I went to go look, and I stopped just for a brief moment, and I was going to cross, and I was like, too much traffic. So I kept walking. I made it 5 feet, maybe. And a tree, a huge tree, mind you, I'm talking massive tree. It snapped and just fell right in front of me, like literally, like whoosh. I'm like, what? Like, if I hadn't stopped to look to see if traffic was coming, if I'd still decided to keep walking forward, that tree would have landed right on me. And that tree was thick enough, I would have been dead. There would have been no question in my mind. That tree was too thick, and it was the solid trunk part that landed right in front of me. So I don't think I would have survived. And if I did, I would have been maimed for life. So I am thankful for that. That to me was an angel. Hey, why don't you look to see what's coming and try to cross the street? And because I was delayed for that, second or two, as I looked and I seen there was too much traffic, so I couldn't do it. Coincidence? I don't believe in coincidences. All right. Here's another one. Now, this one I can't say for 100% sure what, because I'm not exactly sure, but I know when I went to go walking, I went to my wife's job at the time. She was working at McDonald's. She was a manager, one of the assistant managers. And I was coming home. This was late. I don't remember, like 11 or 12, something. It was late. So I remember coming home. On my way home, I was walking up the street, and some, like, I don't know if it was a Tahoe Suburban or what it was. It was a white, I was living out Oak Brook at the time. That's actually farther west that way. Anyways, I was walking up the street, and this vehicle come pulling up beside me, slowed down real slow, and I'm walking. This is one of those times I was walking by faith. Pulled up beside me, and I could see out of my peripheral that he was rolling his window down. And as I'm walking with my hands in my pocket, and I'm just steady walking. All of a sudden, I hear pow, 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 pow. I'm like, dude, I didn't even flinch. I didn't flinch. I didn't tense up. I didn't get scared. Nothing. I just kept walking. Now, I don't know if that guy was directing fire at me, but if he was just outlining me. I didn't hear nothing whizzing over my head, but I wasn't paying attention. Not like to the extent of that. And to me, I believe that could have been an angel. I mean, the guy, if he was shooting at me, should have hit me. Being that close, he wasn't too far from me. I mean, he was pretty close. Like, I could have probably spit on him. That's how close he was. So you wouldn't think they would have missed that distance. So he could have been shooting it up in the air. I don't know. Nonetheless, to me, that was a close call. All right. This one, again, is another one I'm not exactly sure of if it pertains to a near death experience, just because the outcome could have been any number of ways. But I was a kid hanging out. I got a lot of stories with this guy, but that one of my buddies who I had all of them accidents with, he was with me, and we happened to have a shotgun at the time. We was a kid, and it was a 12 gauge, and it was in separate pieces. Like the barrel wasn't connected to it, and he didn't know how to put it together, and neither did I. But somehow or another, we figured it out, and I didn't trust it. I was like, "Here, man, you." We went to the store and stole some shotgun shells to shoot it, so we could shoot it. Well, went back into the graveyard, Green Lawn Cemetery at the time, and was like, okay. I said, here, we put the shells in it, and I was like, here, you fire it. And he's like, no, you fire it. And we went back and forth for a minute like this, and I was like, he decided he wasn't going to do it, and I was like, give me here, man, I'll do it. I was like, so I cocked it like, shh. We found this little van door back there in the woods. Matter of fact, if I go back there, it's probably still back there because I had seen it just a few years ago when I went back. I happened to see it, and I'm like, wow, it's still here. I pointed it at the door. It was just a door from a van. I'm assuming it was a van because it looked like it. And I shot. I was tensed up. I was scared. I was like, boom. I was like, oh, wow, and I was excited, because it's the first time ever shooting a gun like that. So I threw the gun because it was a police chopper. We happened to hear it and heard a police chopper. So I threw it over in the weeds. I just threw it. I was like, let's go. We took off, came back like an hour later. I was like, all right, well, I pulled the gun out of the weeds, and I guess the way I threw it, the barrel went down into the mud. I pulled it out, and there's grass coming out the end of the barrel. You can see the mud, and I'm trying to pull the grass out, and it's clogged up with mud. Of course, dumb old me don't know what that would do. And so I was like, well, since I shot it the last time and you didn't shoot it, I want to shoot it again because, I got excited by it at that time. It was cool, something new, and try it out. So I cocked it, pointed it at the van door again, pulled the trigger. Boom! This time, I probably flew back 4 or 5 feet. It was a serious kick for some reason. I didn't know why, but it was way more harder than the last one. I'm like, boom! I'm like, I still stayed on my feet, surprisingly. And I took several steps back. I'm like, man, did you see that? I turned around, looked at my buddy, and he's pointing at the gun. He's like, man, look. I looked at the gun. Man, you ever see them cartoons? Probably not, but some of you older X generation people would know it. Like cartoons like Elmer Fudd, when he would shoot a gun and the end of it would do that. That's what happened. Yeah. The whole end of the gun exploded out. The whole barrel just mushroomed out. I was Like, what? I mean, it was smoking. I was surprised that I survived that. That could have been really bad. That's an incident. To me, that's an angel, because that could have really turned out bad. Okay, now this one's going to be work related. I remember when I was living in Akron, I was working at a company called Lindsay Concrete, and let me pause this again. All right, sorry, I had to get something to drink. All right, well, when I was working at Lindsay Concrete, it was a pretty dangerous job in a lot of ways. They had cranes that worked overhead, lifting up the heavy stuff that we dealt with. We built box culverts. If you don't know what a box culvert is, it's sewers, like, big man-sized sewers that you could walk through, kind of thing. It's huge. And anyways, they had these big forms. They called them forms. It's the things that, it had these big, huge walls. I mean, I'm talking huge walls, like solid steel walls that they would slide together, and you had to use the crane to do it because you couldn't get it any other way. And you had to go through and build the form, the metal mesh. It was mesh, and then it was rebar and all this. It was a big ordeal that you had to go through, and each one was different. And so you had to go through your diagram that you had to do for the day for these particular forms. The one I worked on was the second biggest one there. Okay. It was like 10 feet by 20 feet. It was huge. These walls were massive. And you had to use an impact gun, pretty good size impact gun, to draw these walls together. Okay. So you'd have to go through, and after you use the crane to lift up your walls and slide them in together, then you'd have to take these long 4-foot long bolts to slide them through and put a bolt on it and torque it down. A lot of times you had to have someone help you. You couldn't really do it yourself for the most part, because somebody had to hold a big, huge wrench on the end of that while you torqued it down, or while they torqued it down, whichever the case, to draw these walls together and tightly. Well, not only did you have to do the wall, on the sides, you had to do the top part too, because they had to have a certain dimension, certain width of space. The top part that you had to finish, you had to go through a trowel and, smooth it out, whatnot. And that was the pieces that where they slid together, like the concrete finished pieces would slide together. They had to be smoothed out and stuff. But anyways, they had these big, huge, like, I think these things were probably about 50 pounds a piece, big metal, steel, I don't even know what, braces that had a big long, one of those big long screws, actually longer than the ones we used for the wall. They was long, and you would have to put them on top, and you have to do multiple ones around the whole thing. Like, you probably have 6, 8 of them. I mean, it was a lot of them. It wasn't just 1 or 2. It was quite a few that you had to use for these. And when you put them together, you had to use the impact gun to tighten them down. Okay, so when you first put these on, your wall might be out 7 inches or so apart. And they said the diagram, it needed to be like 4.5 inches. Okay, you have maybe about a 1/2 inch of room play that you was okay to use, that you could go with. Like, if it said 4.5, you'd have to be the closest to just under 5 or around 5 max before, it would be passable. And sometimes these walls was like way off. So now you had to literally take this impact gun and you picture if these walls were like, what, 8 feet high or whatever. I think it was 8 feet, maybe 9 feet high. You'd have to pull. I mean, 10 feet long by 20 feet. I mean, solid steel. I mean, these things were freaking heavy. You had to use that impact to draw these walls together. Okay. I'm sitting there, and it's happened. I can tell you, it's dangerous. Sitting there, and you start out like 7, maybe 8 inches. You have to draw that down to 4.5 inches. That's a lot of. Now there's a lot of pressure on that brace. I've watched those braces bend out. Metal, solid steel, I'm talking solid steel, start to bow as you're torquing it. And you're looking as you're torquing, you're starting out with 7 or 8, and you're barely hitting 6. You're getting it down, and you still got to go another 1.5 inches. I'm like, oh man, this ain't gonna work. So I go around, start torquing the other ones, same thing. And some of these guys were like, I'm like, man, look, man, this thing's getting ready to snap. I'm like, I don't want to keep torquing this thing and it snap in my face. They'd be like, oh, Bill Ann, oh, yeah, this is how you do it. Whatever. If you think that being a man and getting killed is a good way to go, then you're an idiot. Oh, man, he went out like a man. I lost my face, but hey, I'm a man. No. Sorry, not going to happen with me. I'm not going to be that idiot. So, anyways, they was doing it. I ended up finishing. I'm like, man, whatever, man. Torqued it down till it got to that certain point, and it was still probably 5 inches or something, you know what I mean? It was over 5 inches. It wasn't enough. Well, when that concrete started getting poured down in there, the wall started going like this. So now with the brace already at this angle, and now it's already pushing it farther out, what do you think is going to happen? They already repaired multiple ones of those braces. You could see where they welded them because they broke. And you're talking 50 pounds at least. This thing, while I was standing there, right beside the thing, snapped. That thing snapped. Just when he started pouring the concrete down inside it. And the pressure got to it. And it was just too much. It snapped. This thing flew by my head. Whew, and landed 7,500 yards away. 50 pounds, solid steel, went flying by me. That thing went skidding across the warehouse floor. Like, boom, slid. If I was either a second longer, second sooner, standing a couple inches closer, I would have lost my head. If you would have heard that sound and seen that thing go flying as far as it did, you would have known I'd have been dead instantly, without question. I'm sorry. I would have lost something, whether it was my life or a body part or something. So that was a close one. There's another one. I was at the same job. We was changing the form of my box around. Okay, each day there's dimensions. Okay, sometimes, you might do the same dimensions for like a week straight, less than a week, whatever. Days, it varied. Well, we was doing a changeover on my box, changing the side. Well, there's the corner piece in the form that it's in the center, okay? Then you have the outside walls. Well, the centerpiece is the one we was changing the form on before we changed the outside. Well, there's these corner pieces that you had to climb down inside, and you had to use these hydraulic pumps on the inside that to pull the wall together or to expand it out to where you could pull the form off, or the finished product off the top of it, over it. So as long as you use those pumps and you pulled the walls in on the corners, you would be able to lift them up without breaking it or having it snag and busting pieces off and whatnot. Well, we was changing out the pumps, the corners pieces, and I remember we was changing it out. The guy that was running the crane was supposed to know what he was doing. He come over and he said, all right, take and connect this piece here. It was big solid chain, like thick chain, and it had a little hook on the end of it. It was supposed to connect it on this piece and this piece. Well, he wanted to cut a corner and not take off this section of the one side, and I was in agreement with it. I didn't know better. He's like, all right, connect the chain. It was like 1 foot section on the one side, okay, and then the corner piece. So now you got a weight difference. You know what I mean? So when you go to lift it up, obviously it's could go one direction or another because of the off balance of the weight. Well, he connected these in the wrong spot, and I remember I was standing there and I'm waiting, whatnot. And he's starting to lift this thing up. Well, I remember as I was standing there, the wall, when he picked it up, the way it started to lean, had this, the side with the 1 foot extra extension on the edge of it, started to swing around. Now I'm talking just that 1 foot section by 8 foot high was probably 3-4 ton just for it, not counting the pump and corner section. That's just a rough guess. I think it was more than that, but that's just a rough guess. Huge, thick, solid steel. This thing started to pick up, and it started swinging around. Well, when it swung around, I happened to be standing next to the wall that it was being pulled away from. This thing swung around, and it was like, now, I'm in behind this thing, and the only thing I could do when I seen it, I was like, wait. I put my hand up trying to, put my hand up trying to slow this thing down, and this thing come around, and because of that 1 foot section being on there, went right by me, and it hit the solid form behind me, and it, like, literally, here's these pump pieces. When it came in, it was like, boom, and it stopped right there, probably just inches from my chest. And you could hear it. People outside could hear that thing when it hit, because it was steel on steel. It was like, boom! It was loud. Everyone come running to see what was going on, because they heard me, wait, boom! It was loud. That thing, that pump, was literally right here. My face was up against the wall. It just was like, stopped right there. This guy could have killed me. Enemy could have killed me. So that freaked me out. I'm surprised. I continued to work on that day. I'm surprised, because anybody a lot of people would have probably, I need to go home, man. I'm surprised I'm alive. My heart just dropped because of this. But that was a very close call with that one. That was pretty close. Yeah, I even forgot that. Okay, this one, I remember me and a buddy of mine, this is a different buddy than any that I've spoke on yet, was hanging out on the tracks. We were smoking weed. I'll be honest with you. We were smoking weed. And we was passing back and forth. I'm standing on the tracks, like right in between both tracks. I'm standing in the middle of it, and as I'm standing there, I happen to go pass it to my buddy. I go to pass it, and something said, "Look up." Just out of the blue, look up, look to your right. I happened to look over to my right, and there was a single engine train with nothing connected to it, because it was on right on the curve where I was standing at. So I couldn't see it beforehand. There was bushes, trees, whatever, in the way of visually seeing this. And I happened to just look over, and I would have to say milliseconds, at the most a second. I happened to look over just as I'm passing it to him, look over, and I seen the yellow stripes on the front of the train. Just happened to look and seen that. It was instant reaction, leaped out of the way. And I'm telling you, here's my legs, here's the train. Let's see, like this, more or less like this. And here's this train. Whew, just as I jumped out of the way. I mean, like, even a second, a couple milliseconds shorter, I would have been smacked by that train. And that train was flying. I mean, way faster than it probably should have been. Because in the city limits, it's supposed to be 35 mile an hour. This guy was probably doing 45, 50. Come around that corner like, whoosh. Yeah, I was that close from losing my life. That would have taken me out. There would have been it just would have broke your leg or just injured you a little bit. No, I would have been smashed like a bug on a windshield. Hang on a second. All right. Now I've got a couple other train close calls, but that'd been probably more of an injury than it would be a death. Jumping off a train when it's going 40 or 35, 40 mile an hour. Most of these stories, so, besides the gun going off beside, near my head or near me, all the other ones was in my younger years and stupid years when I was committing crimes, even though I still knew the word, because anytime I ever went to, I would still go to church and still read the word during that time. So don't get it twisted. I was still in the word. I just wasn't following the word. I wasn't lining my faith up with it. I was, okay, I believe in you, God, whatnot. But I was still making mistakes. It's the truth of it. I mean, but I knew that I've never questioned whether or not there's a God, per se. I don't remember any instant I've ever well, I don't believe there's a God. I've known there's a God. And these acts that's happened to me, and some of these are more serious than others, it's proven it. Excuse me. But this last one I'm going to speak on. Now, this one was one of those, and I was walking, in a close relationship with him shortly after, within 5 years, me and my wife being together. I happened to be coming back from the store. Okay, I'm driving, and I was coming up Richardson near Mound Street, coming from Eakin Road. I'm driving up. It's dark out. I don't remember what time it was. I won't even give a guesstimate. But I was coming up to Mound Street. Okay, there was a light there. At that time, there was a light there. My light was green. Something said, slow down, stop. On a green light. Every person I've ever known has never done that. I mean, I'm not the only person God's ever saved like this. I guarantee you somebody else has had this same situation happen, that just like the voice telling them, stop, on a green light. Someone said, stop, look. I'm telling you, I really did. I'm going up through there, and just as I'm getting to the light, someone said, stop. So I did. I stopped on a green light. And just as I hit the brakes and come to a complete stop, here comes a car. I guarantee you that thing was doing 70, 80 mile an hour up Mound Street, and it's only 35 tops through there. This car went, yeah. If I had not stopped in that brief little time that something said to stop, I would have been smacked and killed. I guarantee you, at that speed, if I hadn't, I'd probably be in a wheelchair for the rest of my life. Probably using a colostomy bag. Probably paralyzed from the neck down. You know, any number of things. It could. I can't see how I would have survived that. As fast as he was going, that would have been ugly. That would have turned out severely bad for me. Wow. I think about some of these situations, and you know what? I guarantee you, there's more stories. Now, that was the last one that I had written down. I have another one, but I'm not going to speak on that. I can't say that was a near-death experience. It could have been a near-death experience. I'm already at 51 minutes. Guarantee you, some of you already would have clicked off of this by now. I want to, to speak on that. That's what I really wanted to do. Some of these is, I just remember so many close calls, and I really didn't realize how many until I actually got to the, thinking on this more in depth. I know some of these situations has been brought to my memory, but when I was actually sitting and dwelling on each one, trying to remember every time that I could have associated it with an angel or grace of God kind of situation, I started like, man, wow, okay, wow, whoa, okay, wow, there's another one, wow, are you kidding me? But I haven't thought of every situation. I know there's been more times. What about, I say in anybody's situation, you want to go and you want to leave to go somewhere. All of a sudden your car ain't starting. All of a sudden something is preventing you from leaving. How do you know that ain't God saving you from a situation that you was getting ready to go into? Now, our understanding is, oh man, car's down now, I gotta worry about getting it fixed, I gotta spend all this money, whatever, But how do you know it ain't God preventing you from going into a situation that would have been worse? Same as me with that green light, stopping at a green light. So I want to say that, also in the sense that, taking into consideration, what if you're stuck in traffic? All of a sudden you're stuck in traffic and now you're slowed down. How do you know he ain't slowing you down from something ahead of you that you don't see or know that's getting ready to happen? It could happen. And flight's delayed. Well, how do you know? The reason why it's delayed. Our understanding is, oh man, my plane's delayed. I can't get on my plane. I can't go to my vacation. I can't go see my family. Whatever. You might want to reconsider being aggravated and upset over that and think, well, you know what? God could be saving me from something that could be worse than being delayed. For he shall give his angels charge over thee to keep thee in all thy ways. In all thy ways, you mean even if I was sinning and I was doing wrong things, stealing, smoking weed, doing things that was not of God, he could still keep me in that? Wow. Because his word said, for he shall give his angels charge over thee to keep thee in all thy ways. Not just a few, not only when you're righteous, walking righteously, but even in your ignorance and stupidity. Yeah. And before you have cast judgment upon me, let me tell you something here. Hang on a second. Okay, now this, I ain't gonna reference this to, most of my stupidity is in my younger years, but just keep this in mind. This is gonna be Proverbs, okay? So this is gonna be Old Testament. Some could have their own understanding on that, but it says here in Proverbs chapter 6, verse 30, men, do not despise a thief if he steal to satisfy his soul when he is hungry. Now, all the times I stole, I can't say I did it when I was hungry. Oftentimes it was not that. But I just want to give you that reference before you start having a judgment upon someone who steals. Is he stealing to feed his own soul? To be honest with you, I would have more respect. I hate to say it, but I have more respect for a thief than a liar. You lie to me, that is one of the things that will deter me from wanting to speak to you, I have any part with you, is if you lie to me. And not just because I was a thief, because I was also a liar at the time too, that I would lie when I was a thief, so that's not it. But lies to me is more deceitful than a thief. Somebody says, oh, that's just a little white lie. That's just a little lie. It's all right. Well, the way I look at it, if you'll lie over the small things, then you'll lie over the big things. So that means you will never have any trust coming from me if I catch you in a lie. That hurts me deeply if somebody lies to me. So with that, not that has anything to do bearing on the whole angels being charged over thee and him saving you. But I just want to speak on that. Okay, now this I have to say is the longest video. I said that in my last video with being 48 minutes, and this one here is 57, almost an hour long. And like I say, I could have went into more, and there's no doubt. So just keep that in mind as you're, reflect upon some of the situations you've been through, that, the close calls that you've had. Maybe, some of you have the understanding of that there was grace and mercy and love of God for you to have survived some of those. But not have no thought on that when you could have been taken out. You might want to have a deeper reflect upon those to know that you could have been taken out. If you've had any close calls with near-death experiences, and I'm not just talking about medical, it could be an accident, it could be any number of things. You don't know. I don't know what your situation is. But I just want to speak on these because I really honestly believe that they need to give credit where credit was due. That's to him. That we can't save ourselves, but he can save us. But with that said, I'm going to cut this video off now because it's getting ready to be an hour into this video. All right. I want to wish you Godspeed, blessings from God the Father and the Lord Jesus Christ. And I really wish you well. And until next time, like, share, comment, or subscribe. And blessings.